A man becomes a different creature when he truly loves a woman, not because he is trying to impress her, but because he recognizes that something rare has entered his life. Love, for a man, is not a burst of emotion. It is the awakening of responsibility. And responsibility is the most dangerous, transformative, demanding force he will ever face. A man who loves you steps into a version of himself he would never access on his own. And the first thing he does, the thing that separates real love from temporary attachment, is that he willingly carries weight. He takes on challenges, obligations, and commitments, not because he enjoys them, but because he knows that protecting the bond requires strength, consistency, and structure. Love forces him to stand taller, speak clearer, and move with intention. He knows that his actions matter. He knows that you are affected by the smallest shift in his behavior. And so, he chooses responsibility over comfort. The second thing a man does only for the woman he loves is he reveals his vulnerability. Not the weak kind, not the chaotic emotional dumping disguised as intimacy, but the honest admission of truths he normally keeps hidden. Men are trained to be silent, to appear invincible, to bury every fear and failure. But with the woman he loves, he opens the door a little wider. He lets her see the man behind the armor. He allows her to witness the doubts, the hopes, the wounds he has never verbalized. This is not softness, it is courage. Vulnerability is a man's highest act of trust, and he will only offer it to a woman who creates safety through her standards, her stability, and her grounded presence. You do not earn a man's vulnerability by prying, you earn it by demonstrating that you can hold it without judgment, manipulation, or exploitation. The third thing a man does when he loves a woman is he prioritizes. Not in words, not in promises, but in action. A man can be attracted to many women, but he can only prioritize one. The woman he loves becomes a central part of his decision-making. He thinks about her future when he makes choices about his own. He restores integrity to his schedule, his habits, his relationships. He removes the distractions he once tolerated. He is no longer driven by impulses, he is directed by purpose, and purpose reshapes everything. The man who loves you adjusts his environment so your connection can flourish. He does not ask you to fight for his attention because he has already placed you within the core of his life. The fourth thing a man does only for the woman he loves is he grows. Not for approval, not for validation, but because love exposes the parts of him he can no longer ignore. He upgrades his discipline. He sharpens his thinking. He becomes more patient, more structured, more emotionally literate. He fixes the habits that destroy relationships. He confronts the shadows he once avoided. Love becomes a mirror, and instead of running from what he sees, he works to become better. Growth is not comfortable. Growth is not easy. Real love demands evolution, and a man only evolves when he sees that the woman beside him is worth the discomfort of self-improvement. The fifth act is protection, not just physical, but emotional, mental, and spiritual protection. A man shields the woman he loves from chaos, from uncertainty, from the instability of an undisciplined life. He does not let disrespect enter her world. He stands between her and the forces that try to diminish her. He honors her reputation when she is not present. He creates a container of safety where she can relax, trust, and grow. Protection is not control, protection is structure. And structure allows love to breathe instead of suffocate. When a man loves you, he ensures that you are not carrying the relationship alone. He makes his presence a refuge, not a risk. And the final thing a man does, the thing that only happens when love is real, is he chooses loyalty not as a rule, but as an identity. Loyalty is not about opportunity, it's about character. A man who loves you understands that loyalty is the foundation of legacy. He invests in the long term. He protects the bond as if it were an extension of himself. He doesn't entertain threats to the relationship, and he doesn't gamble with what he values. Real loyalty comes from a man who knows his purpose, and purpose gives him the strength to resist anything that could jeopardize the connection he is building. These 6 actions are not random. They are the natural behaviors of a man whose heart, mind, and purpose align toward one woman. You cannot force a man to do these things. You cannot beg for them. You cannot negotiate them. They are the organic expressions of genuine love. And the woman who receives this kind of love is the woman who stands firmly in her standards, her self-respect, and her discipline. When you carry yourself with clarity, a man either rises or he leaves, and the one who loves you will rise every time. A man's real love is revealed through responsibility, not romance. Romance is easy, anyone can offer compliments, attention, or temporary passion. But responsibility is different. It requires discipline, consistency, and character. A man may flirt with many, but he will only carry the weight of responsibility for the woman he truly loves. When a man steps into love, he steps into accountability. He becomes aware that his choices impact more than himself, and that awareness transforms him. It sharpens his actions, it cleans up his priorities, and it forces him to confront the parts of his life that are immature, scattered, or destructive. Responsibility is the moment a man decides, I am not just living for myself anymore. And that decision, more than any romantic gesture, tells you exactly where his heart is. Flowers fade, sweet words come and go, but the man who loves you brings effort, structure, and reliability day after day, especially when it is hard, inconvenient, or uncomfortable. Man in love doesn't run from responsibility, he grows because of it. He understands that real relationships demand sacrifice. He knows that commitment is not built on promises, but on repeated actions that align with those promises. Responsibility requires him to show up even when he's tired, to communicate even when it is easier to stay silent, and to protect the connection even when it feels vulnerable. And he does it because he sees value in the bond. He does it because protecting the relationship becomes a source of pride, not pressure. A man's love isn't measured by what he does when things are easy, it's revealed by what he does when it's difficult. Anyone can be romantic in moments of excitement, but only a genuine man can remain responsible during moments of chaos, frustration, and uncertainty. Responsibility makes a man intentional. It changes the way he thinks. He no longer makes decisions impulsively. He considers how his actions affect the future. He chooses his words more carefully because he understands they carry weight. He becomes more selective with his time because he knows connection requires presence, not just availability. He doesn't disappear when things get complicated, and he doesn't treat the relationship like an accessory. He treats it like a priority. He becomes committed to growth not because someone forces him to, but because he recognizes that the relationship will only rise as high as he is willing to rise. Responsibility pushes him toward the uncomfortable places, the difficult conversation, the emotional honesty, the self-reflection he once avoided. Love pulls him forward, but responsibility is what keeps him there. A man who truly loves you shows responsibility through consistency. He doesn't drift in and out depending on his mood. He doesn't make you question his intentions or his stability. Instead, he makes his presence predictable, steady, and grounded. Real responsibility means he aligns his behavior with the future he says he wants with you. He keeps his word. He supports your emotional world. He respects your boundaries. He takes ownership of his mistakes without defensiveness. He works through problems instead of abandoning them. And when he fails, as all humans do, he recovers with humility, not excuses. Responsibility separates the man who just likes you from the man who is building with you. Love revealed through responsibility also means he protects the relationship not by controlling you, but by controlling himself. He chooses loyalty not as an obligation, but as a reflection of his values. He doesn't entertain situations, people, or behaviors that threaten the bond. A man in love knows that drifting into temptation is an act of disrespect, not just toward you, but toward the future he claims to want. So he disciplines himself, he thinks long-term. He guards the relationship like something worth preserving. This kind of responsibility is not loud or dramatic, it's quiet, consistent, and steady. It shows up in the choices he makes when no one is watching. Responsibility also means he practices emotional leadership, not dominance leadership. A man in love doesn't escalate problems, he works to de-escalate them. He brings clarity when emotions are high. He doesn't punish you with silence. He doesn't turn disagreements into battles. He takes responsibility for creating stability, because he understands that a calm relationship requires a calm man. Strength is not about overpowering. It is about regulating, guiding, and maintaining emotional integrity. This emotional responsibility is one of the clearest signs of love, because it shows he values connection more than ego. Finally, responsibility makes a man invest in the long-term vision of the relationship. He doesn't think only about today, he thinks about tomorrow, next year, and beyond. He includes you in his plans. He asks questions like, where are we going? What do we want to build? How can we grow together? He doesn't fear commitment because he sees it as an opportunity to deepen the bond, not a threat to his freedom. When a man is in love, responsibility becomes second nature. It becomes the foundation upon which every romantic gesture, every affectionate moment, and every shared dream is built. Romance may spark desire, but responsibility sustains love. And the man who carries responsibility for you is the man who sees you not as an option, not as a convenience, but as a partner worthy of effort, loyalty, and long-term investment. A man's real love is not loud, it is steady. It is not impulsive, it is intentional. It is not temporary. It is built on responsibility, the most powerful expression of love. He can offer. Commitment is proven by consistent action, not emotional intensity. Feelings fluctuate. Passion rises and falls like the tide. Words can be empty, and promises can be made in moments of excitement, but abandoned in moments of challenge. Commitment, however, is not a spark, it is a fire that burns steadily, fed by deliberate choices, disciplined effort, and unwavering attention over time. A man's true devotion is not measured by how loudly he declares his love in moments of thrill, but by what he does day after day, especially when it is inconvenient, uncomfortable, or tiring. Actions are the proof. Emotions are the background noise. You will know a man is committed when his behavior aligns with his intention. Without needing constant reminders, encouragement, or validation, he shows up consistently, not because he has to, but because he chooses to. The measure of love is reliability, presence, and persistence. Consistent action demands discipline, and discipline is not easy. It requires a man to prioritize the relationship over impulses, distractions, and self-interest. It requires him to think long-term, to plan ahead, and to act in ways that reinforce stability, trust, and security. The man who is committed invests in the relationship as he would invest in a structure meant to last decades, not a fleeting emotion meant to satisfy a momentary need. He organizes his life to include you, not around you. He protects the bond, even when there is no applause, no recognition, and no immediate reward. Love expressed through action is deliberate. It is persistent. It does not fade because the weather changes or circumstances shift. The moment a man stops acting consistently is the moment you see the limits of his commitment. Consistency also reveals character. A man who only shows up when it suits him, when he is inspired, or when he feels like it is not truly committed. Commitment manifests when he performs even when motivation is absent, when emotions are flat, when life's pressures weigh him down. Real action is boring to the uncommitted. It is routine, often invisible, but it is relentless. Every text answered, every promise kept, every act of consideration, even the smallest ones, builds trust. And trust is the currency of commitment. Without trust, no amount of emotional intensity, romantic gestures, or declarations can sustain a relationship. Consistency converts love into reliability. Reliability converts love into security. And security allows a relationship to thrive. A committed man plans with intention. He does not merely drift through life hoping the relationship survives. He thinks strategically, how can he contribute, support, and grow the connection every single day. He aligns his choices with the vision of a shared future. He organizes his time, energy, and resources to ensure that the relationship is nurtured, not neglected. His decisions are proof of his devotion. When challenges arise, and they will, he does not panic, withdraw, or abandon the bond. Instead, he doubles down on action. He fixes problems rather than blaming. He communicates rather than assuming. He invests rather than retreating. Commitment is not passive, it is proactive. It is not reactive, it is intentional. And it is measured in the mundane, daily acts that collectively create a life built together. Consistency also shows respect. A man proves he values a woman not by grandiose displays of emotion, but by the daily demonstration that she matters to him. He remembers important dates. He listens when she speaks. He adjusts his behavior to protect her, honor her, and support her growth. He is reliable, predictable in the best sense, and present. He does not vanish in moments of difficulty. He does not abandon responsibilities when life becomes inconvenient. Respect, like love, is revealed in action, not rhetoric. The man who's consistent communicates that the relationship is sacred, not optional. That is the unmistakable sign of true commitment. Moreover, commitment through action requires humility. A man cannot act consistently if his ego drives him. He must recognize that the relationship is bigger than individual gratification. He must take responsibility for mistakes, apologize when necessary, and correct course without defensiveness. True consistency is not blind repetition. It is thoughtful, deliberate, adaptive persistence. It reflects a mind capable of prioritizing connection over impulse and patience over urgency. Emotional intensity cannot replace this. Passion can inspire for a night. Action sustains for a lifetime. A man's love becomes measurable in patterns, not performances. Finally, commitment transforms both individuals. Consistent action encourages stability, confidence, and growth in the woman he loves. She knows where she stands, she feels safe, and she can invest herself fully. The man, in turn, grows in discipline, foresight, and integrity. Commitment is mutual empowerment through repeated, intentional choices. Without action, love is a dream. With it, love becomes reality. Words without follow-through are hollow. Emotions without reliability are fleeting. Only consistent action solidifies devotion, builds trust, and creates a life where love can endure all trials, uncertainties, and tests. A man who proves his commitment through consistent action is rare, because it requires courage, patience, and strength. He does not promise what he cannot deliver. He does not rely on emotional highs to carry him. He chooses reliability, he invests in persistence, and he demonstrates again and again that love is a practice, a responsibility, and a deliberate act. That is how you recognize true commitment, not in the intensity of his feelings, but in the unwavering consistency of his deeds, the steadfast presence of his attention, and the disciplined pursuit of a shared future. Actions speak louder than words, intensity fades, and commitment is built in the silent, relentless work of showing up, day after day, for the woman he truly loves. A man only expands, sacrifices, and transforms when he sees a woman who respects herself. Respect is not earned through charm or flattery. It is demonstrated through discipline, self-awareness, and boundaries. A woman who values herself sets a standard that cannot be ignored, and a man who truly loves her rises to meet it, not because he is forced, but because he recognizes the rare opportunity before him. She becomes a mirror, reflecting the best version of him, revealing the potential he might never reach alone. Expansion is born from challenge, but not any challenge, only the one worth investing in. When a man sees a woman who holds herself with integrity, who does not compromise her principles for convenience or attention, he feels compelled to grow. He realizes that the relationship demands more than superficial attraction. It demands transformation. Transformation begins with awareness. A man recognizes the areas of his life that are incomplete, careless, or chaotic, and he confronts them because he does not want to let this woman down. He reassesses his habits, his priorities, and his ambition. He upgrades his discipline, because half measures are no longer acceptable. He becomes more organized, more consistent, more intentional, not as an act of performance, but as a reflection of respect for the one who sees value in herself. She does not beg for attention. She does not manipulate or demand. She simply stands firm, and that firmness awakens the latent potential in him. He sacrifices comforts, indulgences, and old ways of thinking because he understands that love for her requires contribution, not entitlement. Sacrifice is not weakness, it is strength refined. A man in love with a self-respecting woman sacrifices for purpose, not approval. He sacrifices time he might waste, distractions he might indulge, and choice that do not align with the vision of the life he wants to build with her. He sacrifices ego, pride, and selfish impulses to ensure the relationship thrives. He becomes accountable in ways he would never consider otherwise. Love becomes a transformative agent when it intersects with respect. Her respect for herself and her refusal to accept less than she deserves forces him to operate at a higher level. She becomes a standard, and he rises to meet it, knowing that failure is not an option when the prize is genuine, rare, and transformative. Expansion is equally demanding. A man expands because he recognizes that a woman who respects herself will not tolerate stagnation, excuses, or mediocrity. She challenges him, not with criticism, but through example. She pushes him to take risks, to elevate his skills, to refine his character, and to pursue growth beyond comfort. Expansion is not simply acquiring more, it is becoming more disciplined, more emotionally intelligent, more capable of holding space for another human being with dignity. He invests energy into becoming someone worthy of her respect, someone capable of matching her level of self-regard. A man who loves a woman like this cannot remain stagnant. The relationship becomes a crucible for excellence, and he emerges stronger, sharper, and more fully realized. Transformation also involves courage. He must confront weaknesses he once ignored, fears he once avoided, and habits that once sabotaged his progress. A woman who respects herself will not excuse recklessness, carelessness, or inconsistency. Her standards demand that he show up fully, and in showing up he transforms. He learns patience where he was impulsive, integrity where he was careless, and vulnerability where he was guarded. Love, in this context, is not a comfortable escape. It is a rigorous, demanding process that tests him, stretches him, and reshapes him. The man who embraces this challenge discovers that transformation is not just about the relationship. It is about becoming a man of substance, capable of contributing deeply to the world. A woman's self-respect also teaches him the value of mutuality. She does not allow him to dominate, manipulate, or take without giving. She demands reciprocity, honesty, and effort. And a man who loves her recognizes that true strength lies in balance. He sacrifices but is not exploited. He expands but is not diluted. He transforms but is not coerced. The dynamic becomes a partnership, not a transaction. She respects herself, and in doing so she elicits the best in him. Her presence sets the conditions under which he can reach his highest potential, forcing him to become someone he might never have imagined alone. Finally, a man who witnesses this kind of self-respect understands that love is not passive. He realizes that to hold such a woman in his life requires vigilance, discipline, and conscious choice every day. He cannot take her for granted. He cannot rely on fleeting passion or emotion. He must act consistently, honor her boundaries, and continually invest in the bond. Her self-respect becomes a mirror, a standard, and a challenge all at once, and through it, he expands his capacity, sacrifices what is unnecessary, and transforms into a man of integrity, purpose, and enduring strength. A woman who respects herself does more than command admiration. She demands transformation. And a man who truly loves her cannot remain the same. He expands to meet the vision of what is possible. He sacrifices to uphold the value she places on herself, and he transforms into someone capable of sustaining a love worthy of her standards. This is the power of respect. This is the power of love that is real, demanding, and transformative. Only in the presence of such a woman does a man become the man he was always capable of being. Love becomes loyalty when a man feels the weight of purpose, not pressure. Many confuse love with fleeting emotion, passion, or obligation. But true loyalty is forged in a crucible far deeper. It is not born from coercion, guilt, or fear. It is the natural outcome of a man who recognizes that his life has meaning beyond himself. When a man experiences purpose, he understands that the relationship he cherishes is part of a larger mission, an investment in something enduring, valuable, and transformative. Love alone is fragile, is passion without structure. But purpose gives love gravity, direction, and resilience. When a man connects love with purpose, loyalty ceases to be optional. It becomes a natural, inevitable expression of his character. Pressure can force compliance, but only purpose can inspire devotion that lasts. A man who feels the weight of purpose organizes his life around meaningful priorities. He does not drift aimlessly, swayed by whim or desire. He moves deliberately. And in doing so, he elevates the woman he loves. Her presence aligns with his mission. Her values echo his own. And together they form a partnership anchored in intentionality. Purpose transforms obligation into desire, and responsibility into devotion. He does not stay in the relationship because of fear or expectation. He stays because he sees the bond as integral to the life he is building. Loyalty emerges naturally when a man understands that the relationship is not a distraction, but a pillar of his growth, his integrity, and his legacy. Pressure, on the other hand, corrodes. A man who remains in a relationship out of guilt, threat, or compulsion may appear loyal, but that loyalty is brittle. It is conditional, transactional, and vulnerable to collapse under stress. Love that is maintained by pressure is shallow. It cannot withstand adversity, disappointment, or challenge. A relationship built on force or expectation produces tension, resentment, and emotional instability. True loyalty does not require manipulation or constant reminders. It flows from a man whose sense of purpose has internalized the value of the bond. Purpose aligns intention with action, creating a consistent, reliable, and self-sustaining devotion that cannot be shaken by circumstance. Loyalty born from purpose also demands accountability. A man who loves in this way takes responsibility for his actions, words, and presence. He does not shift blame or evade duty. He shows up, even when it is inconvenient, even when challenges arise, because he understands that the relationship is not a casual convenience but a responsibility woven into the fabric of his life. He measures his choices not only by personal gain but by the impact they have on the woman he loves and the shared future they are creating. This level of accountability is the hallmark of a loyal man. It is not reactive compliance but proactive investment. Loyalty is not demonstrated in moments of ease. It is revealed in moments of difficulty, when purpose must outweigh discomfort, fear, or distraction. Purpose also transforms the way a man experiences love itself. When a man feels the weight of purpose, he no longer seeks immediate gratification. He understands that enduring relationships require patience, discipline, and foresight. He invests in the long-term health of the connection rather than chasing transient thrills. He communicates intentionally acts consistently, and protects the bond against erosion from neglect or distraction. Love becomes a structured force, guided by principles rather than impulses, and loyalty emerges as a natural consequence. The man does not fear commitment because he recognizes that sustaining love is an expression of his purpose, not a limitation on his freedom. In this context, loyalty is not a restriction, it is empowerment. It reflects a man capable of holding himself to the highest standard in service of something meaningful. Moreover, loyalty rooted in purpose carries resilience. A man motivated by external pressure may falter when the relationship faces obstacles, financial strain, conflict, distance, or emotional turbulence. But a man guided by purpose perceives obstacles as challenges to overcome rather than threats to abandon. His commitment is fortified by vision, clarity, and direction. He understands that relationships, like life itself, are tested through adversity. Loyalty in this sense is not passive endurance, it is active perseverance. He does not cling out of fear, he stands firm because he knows the stakes, he understands the value, and he has internalized the meaning of his role within the relationship. Purpose transforms love into a force that can weather storms, navigate uncertainty, and endure the passage of time. Purpose also cultivates respect. A man who feels the weight of purpose respects himself, his partner, and the relationship itself. He avoids behaviors that would undermine trust or integrity because he values the broader mission. He recognizes that loyalty is not just an obligation to the woman he loves, but a reflection of his own identity, character, and legacy. Every choice becomes an opportunity to affirm devotion, to act in alignment with principle, and to demonstrate reliability. Love becomes an active practice rather than a passive state, and loyalty is the natural product of that deliberate engagement. He does not require constant reassurance because purpose has anchored his commitment. Internally, he knows what matters, and he chooses it consistently. Finally, love becomes loyalty when a man links it to purpose, because it transforms the relationship into something sacred. It is no longer about fleeting passion or temporary comfort. It is about building, sustaining, and protecting a bond that matters in the context of life, vision, and meaning. Pressure may coerce presence. Purpose inspires dedication. The man who feels purpose does not question whether to stay. He acts consistently, reliably, and courageously. Loyalty, in this sense, is not a burden. It is a testament to the alignment between heart, mind, and mission. Love finds its permanence not in emotion, not in impulse, but in the steady, disciplined, purposeful action of a man who knows the value of what he holds and chooses it every day, without hesitation or compromise.